All right, so let's go ahead and I'm actually just going to start example 5 over again. So if you have already figured that one out, you can go ahead and skip. All right. Oh, shoot, what's wrong with me? All right, so we've got cosine of 3t minus cosine of t. So we're going to take that identity, cosine of A minus cosine of B, and that is equal to negative 2 sine of A plus B over 2 times sine of A minus B over 2. All right, and I'm going to rewrite it in terms of sine. Then I will have sine on the left-hand side of my equation, and I'll also have sine on the right-hand side of my equation. Let's see what we get there and see if it's something we can use. Okay, I'm going to give myself plenty of room here, so I'm sliding over a little bit. So now we have negative 2 sine. Well, we need to know what A and B are. So let's say 3t is A and t is B. So we have negative 2 sine A plus B. 3t plus t is going to be 4t over 2. And then we have sine of A minus B, which is 3t minus t, which is going to be 2t over 2. All right, very good. And then that is going to be equal to the right-hand side of the equation. So our sine of 2t. Now we have a whole equation that we can work with. So let's start on the left-hand side and just keep simplifying. So negative 2 sine of 2t, and then sine of t equals sine of 2t. Now don't be tempted, like I said last time, don't be tempted to divide both sides by that sine of 2t. Very important, where we will lose like a lot of our answers. So we have negative 2 sine of 2t. I'm going to set it equal to 0. So let's just bring that sine of 2t over, subtract it from both sides. So now we have minus sine of 2t equals 0. So set that equation, get that equation equal to 0. Now we can factor out a sine of 2t. So make sure you notice here that we have two terms. That's our first term. And then this is our second term. We have two terms. Those two terms have a sine of 2t in common. So I'm going to factor it out. And then what's left is negative 2 sine t minus 1 is equal to 0. Now using that zero product property, we can say that either the sine of 2t equals 0 or the sine, negative 2 sine of t minus 1 equals 0. So let's go ahead and just take this one real quick because nothing needs to change about this. We don't have to use any u substitution or anything like that. So let's go ahead and take that piece and solve it really quick. So we have a negative 2 sine t. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, then divide by negative 2. So we want to find sine of t is equal to negative 1/2. All right. Let's put a unit circle up here to reference real quick. Draw out our unit circle. Well, sine t is the negative, is y's. So negative 1/2 for y is going to be down here. Okay, and if we go left and right, hit that graph right about negative 1/2, or you can also look at your unit circle. So that is going to be at, what is that, 7 pi over 6. 6's don't write very good on this thing. And then 11 pi over 6. There we go. Okay, so those are our two solutions there. We have t equals 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Okay, now the problem, the new part, I guess I should say, comes in to play here with the sine of 2t equals 0, because I want every solution of t that will make this work. And every solution of t, let me rewrite my domain up here, it wants all values of t that are between 0 and 2 pi. So let's look back at this one that we just did a minute ago. We looked at where we solved this equation right here, the negative 2 sine of t minus 1. Well, you guys know this. This is an equation. You could graph that equation. Amplitude negative 2, it's a sine function. You can find the period, you could graph it, it's moved down 1. You guys know everything about that, enough to graph that equation. Okay, so what would the period be for that equation? The period would equal 2 pi over b. Well, b is 1 in this case, right? So my period is 2 pi. So when it asks for all t values between 0 and 2 pi, for this graph right here, this part of the equation, I'm only going to have 2 solutions because we're only looking at one period. One period is one time around the unit circle. But what happens over here? Over here we have sine of 2t. All right? This is a simple equation, pretty simple equation to graph. Amplitude's 1, it's not moved up and down, it's not moved left or right, it's a positive sign. If we were going to graph this, it's fairly simple, but the period is different. So let's look at what our period would be. Our period would be 2 pi over b, in this case b is 2. So our period is p. So when we're looking at this graph and we want all values where sine equals 0 between 0 and 2 pi, well, our period is only pi. So we're actually looking at 2 complete periods of sine, and we want all of the answers in those. Now, why hasn't this come up before? The problem is that before this, we have always given you a set of data. Like we have said, give us 4 solutions, give us 2 solutions, give us 3 solutions, give us the smallest positive solution, give us all solutions between negative pi and pi. Everything we've given you up until now, this has not occurred. So this is why we haven't talked about this yet. It hasn't been necessary yet. But now it is. Okay? So what I'm telling you here is that because we're going through 2 full periods of this equation, this graph, we are going to have 4 solutions here. And I'll show you what we can do to make this a little bit easier. So anytime this happens, we are going to start off with the domain that they give us. This domain is for t. Well, what are we finding our equation? Our equation is sine of 2t. So let's make it the same. I would have to multiply 2 through everything. You guys have worked with inequalities before. You should know that we can multiply everything by 2. Ooh, except for that would not be right. All right, so that would be 4 pi. So we have 0 is less than or equal to 2t, which is less than or equal, or is less than 4 pi. Now what else are we going to do? We usually take this and we set u equal to 2t. So what would that change here? Now our domain is in terms of u. And when we take our equation, we solve for u. We just need to know that we need to find enough solutions, all solutions between 0 and 4 pi. Then when we go back and solve for t, we have all of our solutions and we don't have to worry about anything else. So these are the steps that I want you to take whenever this happens. So let's take our sine of u equals 0. We set u equal to 2 pi and solve for that. So when is sine of u equal to 0? Let's write another unit circle over here. Sine is our y values on our unit circle. They're going to equal 0 here and here. Well, we want all solutions between 0 and 4 pi, so we have to go around twice. So our first one is going to be 0. Sine of pi would also be 0. This would be 2 pi. Sine of 2 pi would also be 0. And sine of 3 pi would also be 0. Now, I could go to 4 pi, but what does it say here? It does not want 4 pi. 4 pi is not included. That's why I'm not going any further. So my 4 solutions for u are 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi. That is all in terms of u. So let's go back to 2t, or to t. U equals 2t. So now let's go through and solve for t. I'm actually getting a little bit better at writing with this pen. Okay, so we have t equals 0, pi over 2, pi, and 3 pi over 2. Okay. And now where's my notes? Okay, so we found all of those solutions, and we have t equals 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6 from our other solution over here. Okay, so don't forget to include those. So we've got 4 solutions here, and that would be all of our answers. Okay, I hope that helps for number 5. I am going to pause the video, get number 6, example 6 ready, and then we will continue. Okay, on example number 6 here, which will be like the number 6 on your homework assignment, we are just going to use the sum to product formulas again, and then just cancel out some things. Just be really careful what you're canceling out. Sometimes they might seem the same and they're really easy to cancel out, but just be careful. So first of all, cosine of 8t minus cosine of 2t. Let's say 8t is A, 2t is B, and then we're just going to look down here at our trig formulas. So we have cosine of A minus cosine of B is equal to negative 2 sine of A plus B over 2. So 8t plus 2t over 2. And then times sine of A minus B over 2. Okay. And then all divided by sine minus sine, which is going to be 2, positive 2 this time, sine of A minus B, so 8t minus 2t over 2, and then cosine of A plus B, so 8t plus 2t over 2. Alright, now let's simplify these a little bit. So we have negative 2 sine of, what's that, 10 over 2, so 5t. And then sine of 8 minus 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3t. And then have all over, there's my cursor. Alright, and then 2 of sine of 3t cosine of 5t. Okay, so we have a sine 3t down here and a sine 3t up here. We can cancel those out. Our 2's can cancel. Our negative doesn't cancel. Make sure you keep your negative in there. So we have negative sine of 5t over cosine of 5t. And then sine over cosine is tangent, so negative tangent of 5t is our final answer. Alright, and that's all for that example and all for 7.4. So let me know if you guys have any questions on any of those, and I will help you out the best I can. I have also put up some worked examples as well on the homework assignment for you.